Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're completely reframing how you look at water in agriculture. For generations, farming has relied heavily on traditional wisdom and, honestly, a fair bit of guesswork when it comes to watering crops. But today, we're shifting away from that. We're moving toward a modern, highly scientific understanding of water management. We're going to show you how mastering the exact biological thirst of your crops doesn't just maximize your yield, it directly controls your legal and financial liabilities.
Okay, let's dive right into this visually striking contrast. On the left, you've got the traditional flood method. Sure, it looks abundant, right? But the reality is that flooding is a really blunt instrument. It wastes precious shared resources, it stresses the plants out by essentially drowning them, and ultimately it jacks up your financial liability. Now contrast that with the precision instrument on the right. This is where scientific management bridges the gap. By applying water exactly where and when the plant needs it, you achieve this incredible elegance. You're maximizing the yield, conserving shared water, and fully optimizing your tax footprint. It's a total game changer.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're covering 6 key areas. First, the flood versus precision. Second, the science of crop thirst. Third, mastering the soil sponge. Fourth, the blueprint for crop water. Fifth, the logic of water taxes. And finally, the drop-to-dollar equation.
All right, Section 1, the flood versus precision. Let's start by debunking a deeply entrenched myth in farming right off the bat. The idea that more water simply equals more yield.
When you actually compare traditional flooding to modern scientific methods, the numbers are just staggering. Traditional continuous flooding wastes up to 70% of the water applied. I mean, think about that. For every 10 gallons you pump, 7 are completely wasted. No way, right? And not only that, but pushing all that excess water into the field literally washes away or leaches your expensive fertilizers deep into the earth, well past the root zone. Plus, it creates this perfect breeding ground that highly increases the probability of crop disease. On the flip side, scientific methods like alternate wetting and drying, or AWD, rely on exact, precise usage. This scheduled rotation protects the roots, keeps the nutrients right where they're needed, and ultimately gives you much healthier, higher quality yields. Moving to Section 2, the science of crop thirst. Now we're shifting our focus way down to the micro-level biological reality of your plants. To truly master precision irrigation, we first have to nail down a critical scientific concept: evapotranspiration. Big word, I know, but it simply dictates the absolute biological thirst of the crop. It's an equation made up of 2 parts. First, transpiration. This is the water actually consumed and drawn up by the plant to grow. Second, evaporation, which is the environmental loss. The water simply lost from the soil to the sun and the wind. Transpiration plus evaporation equals the exact biological requirement of your crop. You can actually see how the water moves up through the roots for transpiration, while the surrounding soil loses moisture to evaporation. And the golden rule of precision agriculture is right here. Anything more than this exact evapotranspiration requirement is physical waste, and anything less is plant stress. There is absolutely no middle ground. You're either hitting the exact target, you're wasting money, or you're actively harming your crop. All right, Section 3, mastering the soil sponge. Let's look at the physics of the dirt, because understanding where that water lives once it hits the earth is absolutely crucial. The absolute best way to visualize your field is to think of the soil as a giant sponge. If you overwater and push that soil to a state of saturation, you completely fill all the tiny air pockets in the dirt with water. The oxygen gets cut off, and your plant's roots, they literally suffocate. Any extra water just percolates down, taking all your expensive fertilizer capital right along with it. But when you apply water precisely and stop exactly at what we call field capacity, you hit the sweet spot. You achieve this perfect balance. The sponge is full, holding the ideal ratio of water and air, which allows the root system to actively breathe and thrive without wasting a single drop. Now, if you let it dry out to the wilting point, the remaining water is locked so tightly to soil particles that the roots just can't drink it. So, field capacity is our ultimate target. Up next, Section 4, the blueprint for crop water. Let's see how this creates a specific, actionable strategy for different types of crops. Look, the simple truth is that not all crops drink the same. A fundamental part of precision agriculture is matching what you plant to the water you actually have available. We map this out in a matrix. High water demand crops, think paddy and sugarcane, require a really high base period, meaning they need active watering over many days, along with a high physical depth of water. Medium demand crops like wheat and maize, they just require moderate watering,
Meanwhile, low-demand crops like pulses and millets are incredibly efficient. They demand a significantly shorter base period and minimal total water depth. That makes them highly profitable when water is scarce. This blueprint mathematically matches your crops to your water availability using two super important terms. First, the base period, which is the total days your crop needs active watering. And second, the delta, which is the total physical depth of water required over the entire growing season. By knowing the base period and delta for exactly what you intend to plant, you finally stop guessing and start managing.
Moving to Section 5, the logic of water taxes. We're panning out to the macro-level legal and economic framework now.
When it comes to water taxes, there's a massive misconception that we really need to clear up. It is absolutely vital to stop seeing water tax as a penalty or just some annoying fee. It's actually a shared lifeline. It functions as a regulatory scale. Its entire legal and logical purpose is to prevent a single farmer upstream from monopolizing all the water, ensuring that the farmer at the very end of the canal downstream gets the exact same opportunity and resource as the guy at the top.
Just follow the cycle of this shared lifeline. It starts with an assessment, where a fair tax is collected based on actual usage. Now, that money doesn't just vanish into thin air. It goes directly into reinvestment, where the government funds structural maintenance. That reinvestment guarantees delivery, meaning the canals remain clear, structurally sound, and fully operational. And reliable delivery leads directly back to prosperity for every single farm on the grid. Your tax is quite literally the engine that keeps this entire wheel turning.
So how do you legally optimize your tax assessment within this system? Well, you need to understand the assessment equation, which calculates your liability through three specific variables. Step 1 is your crop type. Cash crops legally carry a different assessment rate than basic staple crops. Step 2 is the area irrigated, meaning the exact physical footprint of land receiving the water, and Step 3 is the source and method of delivery. For example, rates differ depending on whether the water arrives via natural gravity flow or if it requires mechanical lift irrigation.
And the formula is incredibly straightforward once you see it laid out visually. Variable 1, crop type, multiplied by variable 2, area irrigated, multiplied by variable 3, source and method. That final number equals your total tax liability. By understanding these specific variables, you can strategically plan your crop selection and your field layout to legally and efficiently optimize exactly what you owe.
Finally, Section 6, the drop-to-dollar equation. Let's bring the biological science and the taxation economics together to look at the ultimate return on your investment.
We call this the drop-to-dollar equation because your field management directly dictates your profit at the end of the day. The direct stakes couldn't be clearer. Look at the top path. Poor management means overwatering your field. This wastes expensive fertilizer, triggers a higher tax assessment based on your area and crop, and ultimately results in lower net profit and degraded soil. Nobody wants that. Now look at the bottom path. Precision management means meeting exact crop evapotranspiration requirements via targeted, scheduled rotation. This optimizes crop health, ensures a highly efficient, minimized tax assessment, and results in maximum net profit and long-term soil preservation.
So, what's the bottom line here? By transitioning away from continuous flow and actually adopting targeted scheduling, you actively shrink your legal and financial tax liability. You physically prevent soil degradation and nutrient leaching. You match the exact biological thirst of your plants, and by doing all of that, you maximize your total net profitability. You're literally protecting the environment and your wallet at the exact same time.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today. From the microscopic science of evapotranspiration and soil field capacity, all the way to the macroeconomic frameworks of water tax equations. The old ways of guessing and flooding, they just aren't viable anymore. The knowledge and the blueprints are right here. So the final question I'm leaving you with is this. Now that you understand the mechanics of this entire system, will you continue to let the water manage you, or will you use this science to finally master the lifeline? Thank you so much for watching this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.